Welcome to GradMissions Office Hours. I'm Autumn.
Hi everyone, I'm Wise Ann.
Hi, I'm Logan.
We are so excited this morning. We are bringing you our first ever This or That episode. And this is something that Logan and Lisanne cooked up. I don't really know what I'm in for. It's just going to be kind of a rapid fire situation. And I think Lisanne's going to kick us off with law, this or that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we said we were going to do some law and then some med, but some of these are kind of similar. So Logan, if you want to jump in, you absolutely can. Um, but a question, I'm going to start with a question I've been getting a lot of lately, which is when it comes to your letters of recommendation, should a student, have a letter from a big name in law or, senator, politician, um, just a well-recognized name, or should I have someone who doesn't have a big title but that knows me well? What goes further for my application? And for that, I always say, who knows you better? And so it really, what the letter of recommendation, the purpose of that is to let the committees know about your work ethic and your character. And a lot of times people will submit letters from a big name thinking,
Sure.
well, they're a big, donor, or everybody knows that they're this amazing litigator. But it's easy to spot a form letter that they just stamped your name on and sent it in. And that is not impressive because it does not speak to your work ethic and your character. What is
Mhm.
impressive is, oh, I don't know this person, but that does not make them insignificant. Um, and they wrote this letter. They know this applicant. They have seen them work. They have seen them work hard, study, um, you know, overcome challenges. They've gone to their office hours. They've really made an impression on them. So I would pick that. So that being it doesn't have to be a big name. What they write in that letter is more significant than a title.
Absolutely. We had a client this cycle who works in the space of um, anti-human trafficking. She's not a human trafficker. She's anti, works with victims of human trafficking. And one of her letters of recommendation was from someone who she helped, one of her clients.
Mhm.
And we even had to translate it from Spanish to English. And I think it was one of the most compelling letters of rec I've ever read. And if you have a
Yes.
big name person who they're a family friend. They, even if it's someone who you worked for, but like you never actually saw the
Mhm.
wizard, you know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
were definitely behind a curtain. Save that and have them send their letter of rec directly to the dean of the law school or the
Mhm.
dean of the med school. That carries more weight. Like the dean's the one that cares about those titles. So even
Right.
if it's a thin one, just have them send it directly to them. Don't even go through the caste system. And that's a little like special tidbit for you from Grad
For
Missions.
sure.
It's a tactic we use all the time.
Yes. And I cannot, with this or that, can't give well, it depends also. Because sometimes you may have worked directly with the president of a university and you may be buddies with them, and that's amazing. Have them write the letter.
Yeah.
um, Send it to the dean and the committee, but there's always special circumstances, but always, always choose the person who knows you well.
Mhm.
Do you agree in the med space, like a well-known physician or PI versus lesser known but knows you really well? Would you take the same strategy?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd have a TA write it instead of the professor if that's the person who can speak best about your work product. If it is, someone who's well known in the medical community, like you said, a famous PI, I still think it's a better letter sent directly to the dean of the med school. Not the dean of admissions, the actual dean of the med school, and potentially the university president.
Whoa. A
100%.
hush came over the podcast. Okay.
Have done this tactic, have had success with it. And then if you only get two letters, you actually get three, right? Who's
Mm.
going to stop you?
Nobody,
Nobody. Quit asking permission. Let's go.
for sure.
The dean's assistant. That's who's going to stop you.
Logan.
I'm
You
just
must
kidding.
We're
not
not
be
going to hand
named.
deliver. We're not hand delivering. No.
That's right, exactly.
Okay, so second question I'm hearing a lot recently is, should I take a gap year before I attend law school? With a lot of times a follow-up question, should that gap year be spent so that I can gain legal experience before law school. And again, don't want to step on Logan's toes because I feel like this will be obviously a different answer for med space. And we'll get to that. But for law school, no, you do not have to take a gap year in order to gain legal experience. But then again, you can take a gap year if you want to gain experience, if you want to save up, if it's, you're not quite ready to apply early in the cycle, which, as we have seen, is super, super important with how competitive law school admissions and the applicant numbers are just bananas, which I feel like we talk about every podcast. So if you just aren't quite ready to submit, there's nothing wrong with a gap year. And you don't even have to spend that gap year doing something legal. You don't have to go work as a legal assistant or a paralegal. It could be something you could go abroad, or, you could work any type of job where you're saving up, to pay for tuition, or you have a family and you need to, you know, give them food, things like that. And so, but it is not required in order to gain legal experience, because legal experience is not required to attend law school. And that's kind of that's other chat out there that's like, well, I was a clerk or I worked this, that, and the other. Yes, that's absolutely helpful. Not necessarily for an admissions decision, but it's going to help
Or
you
a
as a few.
scholarship.
No, it's going to
No,
help you as a future attorney. And
sure.
I talk about this a lot: learning the procedure, learning how to treat the secretaries and the clerks and the judges, administrators, and things like that. Learning client relationships, learning counseling, all of that will be helpful to you, absolutely. But you do not have to take a gap year in order to gain experience.
I think that's so true. Yeah. The only reason I'm suggesting gap years right now for people is because it's too late.
Right.
It is too late to apply to law school right now.
Yep.
So get your stuff together and apply September 1. So then, in essence, you do have a gap year.
Yeah. And sorry, one more thing. If you need to study for the LSAT, people are like, oh, it's fine. I'll get a letter of recommendation from a well-known attorney.
I have a lot
That
of
will
good
not
softs.
fix your.
US News doesn't care about your softs. The ABA doesn't care about your softs, and neither do your law schools. They don't care.
Yes.
You have to get a good LSAT. The end.
Spend that year. And, a lot of what I talk about with students too is just saving money, budgeting, not coming out of law school with tons and tons of debt. So if you are not quite ready, if your LSAT is not where you need it to be, take that year, work, study, save up, get your LSAT score up so that you can get scholarships and apply September 1st.
What about for med school, Logan?
Well, I'm sensing a different answer for med school. I mean, I'm sure it's a big old depends.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Autumn, what do you think? Straight through from undergrad or take a gap year to build your narrative?
It depends
Yeah.
how much work you've done in undergrad, right? If you have been maintaining that beautiful BCPM science math GPA, you're cumulative, you've rocked biochem, you've been able to be an EMT for your campus, you've been on the sidelines at every football game, but you're also, getting patient hours. You have, a great MCAT score, a great GPA, you have tons of patient experience shadowing, and you have the activities and experiences section to back up your K to MD. That's kindergarten going straight to med school. Do it. Apply. Let's go. Let's try it. I think it's a real misnomer that people aren't admitted to med school because they don't have enough patient hours. It's bogus. It's totally bogus. That is not the reason you did not get invited to interview. It's not the reason you didn't, get the invite to the class after your interview. Likely the reason that you didn't get that is because you didn't write about it well. The end. You didn't write about it well. You didn't reflect. You listed it like a resume line. So should you take a gap year? Well, it depends. Do you need to get more patient experience so that you have stories to tell on your activities, experiences, secondaries, and in your interview? Do you need to work on that MCAT? Because your 496 is not going to do it if you want to go MD. It's just not. I had to have some really tough conversations yesterday. People are like,
Mhm.
well, but I've got this. I'm like, doesn't matter. They're not
Yeah.
even going to see it. But no, they're not going to see it. They're not going to see it because you have to be this tall to ride. You just do.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of pre-med programs assume you're going to take a gap year. So you need to get very clear with whoever is organizing your schedule about your intentions. And you need to have biochem fall semester of your junior year, and you need to take the MCAT the spring semester of your junior year, and you need to be the first app in the door May of
Yeah.
your junior year. And if that is not your goal, you're taking a gap year, whether you want to or not.
Yeah. That makes sense because I was thinking, learning about the med school process. I'm like, everybody takes a gap year. Well, it makes sense. It's because they didn't do what you just said,
Right.
because the advice is antiquated a lot of times, I
It is.
think.
Well, and there's just, I think it's a like most misunderstandings in life, most giant conflicts, most wars, right? We can track
Hmm.
back to somewhere along the line, there was a miscommunication.
Yeah.
And, I'm working with a gaggle of people right now at Princeton, and they have a great pre-med office. It's amazing. They assume you're going to take a gap year, and they make your schedule accordingly. And it's really, really, really competitive to get into biochem in the semester that you need to get it in order to have it really be the impact that it is, that we know it is on your MCAT. And so there's a lot of really disgruntled students there. And we had to appeal a lot to
Mhm.
get them in the biochem class in the semester that they needed. So you can imagine that if Princeton is having these problems, your state school is also having these problems, right? Like
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to shade anybody, right? Like pre-med advisors, pre-law advisors are doing the Lord's work.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, they have to do what's equitable for everyone at the institution, not what's going to make you sparkly, shiny, be
Yeah,
admitted to your dream school with the best scholarship. They just can't. They don't have those resources.
for sure.
I feel like I heard the deflation of undergrad students
Yeah.
at the idea of planning for a gap year. I heard the wind just get sucked out of their sails. Okay, I don't want to divert us too much from law, but I feel like I have a follow-up for our friends that, maybe their academic journey was a little bit of a struggle, or they decided late in the game that they wanted to go to med school, something like that. Not would you rather, but this or that. A post-bac or master's
Mm.
versus, maybe for some low grades or a questionable academic history. Um, Post-bac or master's to compensate, or nothing formal, just careful school selection and a good narrative.
So I think first we have to bifurcate post-bac and masters, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people, I see this so many times on Reddit. They're like, I'm going to get my master's to boost my GPA.
You can't do that for law school either. I'm sorry. I know we're talking about med school. Please don't do that for law school.
They don't care. That doesn't count. It's only your undergraduate grade. That's only bachelor's level classes. So if you get your master's, that's great that you have a 4.0 in your master's. It doesn't factor into the equation for admissions or scholarship for law
Mhm.
or med school. The end. It doesn't. Now, DO schools, if you're applying DO, they will consider it and factor it in. But if you're applying MD or JD, it's great that you have that. They're going to look at it and they're going to be like, yay, gold star. Okay, now let's get back to this 2.75, right?
Mhm.
It's great to have as evidence just narratively, like in your GPA addendum that you're submitting, this is the best representation of who you're going to get at med school, who you're going to get at law school. I figured my stuff out. I'm on meds. My frontal lobe has developed, like all of these things that have happened. Like that's great. So I think my advice in the med space, if you do post-bac classes, they do count. So I would recommend post-bac classes, biochem, right? When I'm on the admissions committee and I'm looking at a med school transcript and it's questionable, I'm going to go look at biochem. And if biochem is a good grade, that tells me you're ready. If biochem is not and you haven't done anything about it, I'm not going to admit you. And that's just it. Like it is biochem or nothing. Biochem is Bay. Okay. Like biochem is the ace of spades. It is the actual boss before you get to go to med school. If you're a video game person, like you have to navigate biochem. So a post-bac over a master's every single time. Some
Mhm.
schools have an automatic admission if you do their master's bridge, program, SMP program. That's different. That's different. You're guaranteed admission or you're guaranteed an interview. Okay. Like they're going to overlook your multitude of sins GPA wise. Um, Other than that, Logan, your third option was to be really strategic about your schools. Consider a DO, right? This is not your grandma's DO. These stigmas around a DO not being able to match, not being able to be competitive, not being, a white coat's a white coat at the end of the day. I talked to a student yesterday. He was like, I'm absolutely playing MD, sub 500, you know, right at a 3 point BCPM and CUM. And I was like, well, what kind of physician, what specialty are you thinking about? He's like, internal medicine. I'm like, primary practice. I'm like, primary care. I'm like, why not DO? Like,
Mhm.
you don't have research, you're not interested in that. Like, you want to do rural healthcare, like, why not DO? So I'm team DO every single time, but being really realistic, unless you just want to throw away $6,000 applying to schools that are going to presumptively deny you.
Yeah. But which would you pick?
I would pick a DO every single time, but that's just me. Like that's what's right for you. If you want to do plastics, if you want to do neurosurgery, if you want to do, one of these wacky specialties, then you've got to get in, you've got to do the work. You're not going to get on charm and a smile to one of these competitive specialties. And so even if you are able to squeak, you know, you're not going to squeak by. You're not. You have to have, 510 to 515 plus, and you've got to get that. It's not just about the GPA, right? Like, unlike studying for the LSAT, studying for the MCAT is studying for med school.
Mhm.
And so if you've got giant gaps curriculum wise, like, oh, I'm really terrible at, the psych-soc part. I'm really terrible at biochem. I'm really terrible at orgo. That is your scaffold for being a doctor. You've got to figure it out. My favorite students, when they have a class that's really hard for them, they double down, learn it better, and become a TA in that class. That's my favorite story to tell in the secondary, right? Like, how did you overcome something? Well, I got a C in Orgo, and now I teach it. And now, and I retook it and I got this grade. Like, that's the right way to approach it. You can't hide. That boogeyman's not going away.
Lisanne, take us back to law.
Sure. Well, as we were talking about advisors at colleges and universities, it made me think of another this or that. And this is for folks who are early in the process. And we love working with people early in the process. People are like, oh, I'm only a freshman. Like, this is the perfect time because you really set yourself up for success and less stress and less panic and just ease going into that junior and senior year if you start planning now. And so GradMissions offers something called an admissions accelerator that's wonderful for freshmen. And it's sitting down with you for an hour and making this roadmap for your entire college career, to help you get where you need to be with the least amount of stress and the most amount of success. So one this or that comes with that is, okay, I'm, looking at my major. I know I want to go to law school. I need to pick a law school-esque major. I need to be poli sci or English or history. And I have to minor in legal studies and do all the pre-law things, right? Or that, can I just pick any major? I'm really, really interested in French. Can I have my major be in French? And the answer is always that. Pick a major that you enjoy. There is no prerequisite for law school, and you want your GPA to be really strong. And, if you are in a major that you enjoy and that you're passionate about and that you're gifted in, your GPA will follow and your law school chances will escalate. And so, and you're not wasting your time either. You're spending those 4 years being enriched and just learning so, so much. So, my favorite law students were theater majors. They crushed it every time, just the confidence and, being able to get up and speak in class and things like that. And so that's really helpful. And so picking a major that you enjoy and that you can see yourself, working internships in the summer, building that resume, being able to write in your essays about, spending that time learning philosophy, or, I was an education major, which I loved. And I always joke that the practice of law is a lot like classroom management. You're
Oh,
dealing
yes,
with
it
meltdowns. You're dealing with meltdowns from big grownups. You're dealing
is.
with conflict resolution. And so you can learn so much from different majors. Um, and so I love advising young people about what their majors could be, because that's hard. It's 17, 18. Not many people know exactly what they want to do with their lives. So being able to just take what you're passionate about and funnel it into the future, I think is really great. That is not to say that you don't have to minor in legal studies, that you can't do poli sci. There's tons of people that do that, and that's great. But you don't have to do that if you don't think that's a good fit for you.
Yep. So I'm building a future law student right now. He turned 10 2 days ago. This is my son who's 10. They had to create a new like level of math on the standardized test because he just like blew it out of the water. I had no idea, y'all. I didn't even know, right? Like I had no idea. And so I'm like immediately like this is my favorite kind of law student because here's what I want. And I'm gonna let him pick his path. He will probably like play the flute. Like I don't care. That's fine. But like in my brain, like if I could like create a path for him, it would be for him to study math and for
Mhm.
him to take the patent bar
Mhm.
summer after his senior year. I'm gonna send him to Europe. He can have a lot of fun, but I want him to take the patent bar. And then I want him to be an IP lawyer. I want him to study IP. And I want him to be an environmental lawyer too. And I want him to like save the earth because he's like my sweet, tender sunshine boy. Um, so if you love biology, if you love statistics, if you love, engineering, oh my gosh, please do that. Please do that. Layer in some, you know, philosophy, layer in some statistics, layer in some reading and research, writing heavy classes just to keep those muscles flexed for law school. But yeah, law school doesn't care what your major was. And spoiler, neither does med school. Logan,
Mhm.
what do you think?
Yeah. I will say that once you get to med school, there does tend to be the science faction versus the non-science faction.
Yes.
They do seem to like split themselves. And what's funny is actually at the school that I worked with, when I would put together their, student groups, we called them mods, I would tell them all that it was random. Of course, it was not that random. I put a lot of thought into, who was in what mod based on gender and undergrad and that kind of thing. But I would try to have an even split of undergrad major
Yeah.
Mm,
because they just think differently.
yeah.
Yeah.
They enhance one another. It's not that one is better than the other. That's not what I mean at all. But, the music major or the ballet dancer, oh, love me a dancer that goes to med school.
Mm.
Mhm.
Versus, the engineer or the biochem major or whatever. They just approach those preclinical courses differently. And I find that when they're working together and studying together in groups, what each of them brings helps the group.
Mhm.
So, does a med school care? No, they don't care what you majored in as long as you have the prereqs and, your activities and experiences. But I will say that once you get there, find a buddy.
Mhm.
I'm big on the buddy system in med school. Find a buddy that majored in something different than you because they'll bring a
Yeah.
different viewpoint.
Yes. We need all kinds of doctors. We need all kinds of lawyers. And there is not a template for it. There really isn't.
Okay, I have Autumn, do you want to do one more? I mean, I could go all day. So
Yeah,
you tell
let's
us
do
when to
one
stop.
more. Med, what do you think?
Well, so I have one that I think you'll like, and it could be kind of a combo because I think
Oh, love a combo.
I think this is a personal statement question.
Um,
Those are my favorite. That's like
I
my
know we
favorite thing
love
to
these.
do. Is
Yes.
statement.
So, in a personal statement, would you rather be writing for someone who had one single moment that sparked their interest in med or law?
Mhm.
Or would you rather have someone who had a long arc that led to their interest in med or law?
Gosh, that's such a good one.
It's hard.
I'm here for the drama. I want the
Yeah.
one single moment. I want the one single moment. And even if you have a long arc, I'm going to boil it
Yeah.
down.
Yep.
I used to tell, in my previous life, I taught English language learners how to write standardized writing tests, right? That was my goal. In the state of Texas, they had to get a 3 or a 4 on their essay writing in order to move to the fifth grade, and I taught the fourth grade. So it was like my job. Some of these kids had not ever written in English before. And so we did a lot of, hands-on formulaic. And so writing is like my thing. And we would do I would actually bring a giant watermelon into my classroom. In my fourth grade classroom, you can imagine it was bean bags. No one wears shoes. We had lava lamps. It was like there was a snack every day. Like I tried to be Miss Frizzle. That was my plan.
Which is, yeah.
And so I brought this giant watermelon in and we just moved all the desks and we put a big picnic blanket on the ground and like a waxy kind of red and white checkered tablecloth. Sat on it and I put this big watermelon down. And I was like, you guys are writing the whole watermelon. And it's great, but in 2 pages, which is exactly what you have, my friends, you cannot write about a whole watermelon well. You can't. So then I took this big knife, right? And sliced into it. I had to get special permission from my principal.
I was gonna say this was
Sliced
a while
into
ago.
it, opened it up, and I was like, pulled out one of the seeds. And I was like, it was a black diamond watermelon from Texas. It's the best kind. The only kind my papa would ever buy. So it actually had a seed in it. Pulled it out and I was like, this is your story. Now, what comes from this seed? And I also taught them science. So they knew that the watermelon comes from the seed. And so that is the kind of writing that we do. We've got to boil it down and write about it with texture. We've got to write about it with feeling. If you don't care about what you're writing, neither will anyone else. Neither will the admissions officers, neither will the scholarship people, neither will the donors. Like none of it, none of it's going to happen unless you really care and emote. And so I do think a single moment that you're writing about, you have that one defining, the skies opened up and you were like, here we go, this is it. And even if you've been deciding, I've known my whole life I wanted to be a doctor. Okay, but like when did you scratch that mosquito bite? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what was that moment? Drill in and tell about it. Um, yeah, that's the one I picked.
When did you scratch that mosquito bite? Man, that really because do you know how satisfying that is to scratch a mosquito bite for the first time? Like I can feel it right now.
And
That's
that's
such a
what
good
it
way to put
feels
it.
like. That's what it feels like. Like I feel like this dream to go to Metter Law School is like a bug bite. And you can try to like ignore it. You can try to satisfy it with a master's, with an MBA, with a different job, but at the end of the day, you gotta scratch that itch. You gotta scratch it. That's the only way to do it. And we're a little bit of hydrocortisone right here at GradMissions. We can get you over the itchy, and you're gonna be feeling good and cool, and like you got that shower. There's lightning bugs outside, and you're in your linen sheets and curling up. That is what happens when you see a meeting with GradMissions on your calendar. You're like, it's a summer night, and the screen doors open, and you're at Mima's house, and it's amazing.
Mhm. This was fun. We should definitely do a part two.
I agree. This
I've
or
got
that
so
is
many more.
so fun. Yes, it's way nicer than hot or not. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We're so excited. I hope you can tell from this episode that season two is going to be a riot. It's going to be fun. We have been listening to you. We have some really fun things planned for this season of GradMissions Office Hours. We have some new faces. You're going to be meeting some new voices. Um, Join us each week on Wednesday. We drop these new episodes. And if you're not following us on socials, send your dad our LinkedIn, send your mom our Instagram, and you follow us on TikTok. We have lots of free content there as well. Share us and book a call so that we can help you get on your way to Metter Law School.
So, guys, we're going to turn off the lights here in the pod loft, but they're always on socials. So, again, message us, reach out, ask your questions, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.